Welcome to Game City Video Podcast. I'm Russ, and that's Zach.
Hello. How goes it?
Oh, it goes.
right before we started recording, Russ coughs, hacks along, and he goes, "I will never be well again." So yeah, I know. I just got over COVID, so yeah.
I finally had my physical, and she was like, "Yeah, that's fine. It's like post-viral. It'll go away eventually." I'm just like, "Great, thanks." It's been 8 weeks, but thanks.
Yeah. God. Ugh.
So one thing I did want to talk about that is not on our list that I'll just kick in really quick because it's not really worth discussing much, but I think it's kind of neat. I'm sure I've told you, but have you seen Walmart is carrying a VHS tape now?
Yes, I did. An individual boutique.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. It's in over 3,000 stores.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I can tell, they carry 5 copies apiece.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it officially the best-selling VHS tape since like 2004.
Yeah, at least the largest print run of any individual film, probably, that isn't like some, company, or actually probably would be anything, because why the fuck are companies doing VHS tapes? But
this is the tape. It's Terrifier 2.
Yeah.
Comes with a special introduction by the director, which is it basically feels like one of those old videos that Charlie Band used to do on like 80s full moon releases.
Yeah.
I got this. A friend of mine was like at Walmart and was like, "Hey, there's that tape here. Do you want this?" And I was like, "I don't really have much interest in the movie, but I do indeed want that."
Yeah. And I have no feelings. It's not a film that I have any interest in, just because not anything about the film. It's not like a genre of type of horror and everything like that I care for. But I'm like, I do wish it was. Wish it was something that I wanted, because I can't justify. I think it was $30 or something.
It's $30, yeah. And like my buddy bought it for me, and he was just like, he's Jeremiah, who does the Rivera collection, and so he was just like, he does like geek bingo where he gives away like signed comics and crap. And he was like, instead of paying me back, like, next time I need prizes for bingo, I'll hit you up for one. I was like, cool. But yeah, I just wanted to put that on there. It's not like, the thing about it is that because it is becoming already a weird collector's item and people are like buying it and flipping it for 3 times the amount on eBay, I can totally see Walmart seeing the value of like having one at a time and working. This one is from Witter Entertainment. I can see them working with like Witter and Lunch Meat and like the 2 or 3 other like decent size boutique VHS things, and doing one of these every few months. That would be fun. It would be it's neat to see VHS back on the shelf at a major retailer. It's funny to just kind of sit there and try to crunch the numbers in your head and be like, oh, this is the best selling tape since A History of Violence,
I do wish they would come out with I don't know what, like, is it just 2 tapes or is it 1 tape or what is it?
It's 2 tapes. It's let's see. Apparently it's just a long movie, because I was like, I didn't know if it was an extended version or if it was just as I said, have not actually watched it yet. My buddy brought it over to me.
I just remember like one of my favorite box sets of all time that I think was like actually worth like the box set was, I had a Usual Suspects 2-tape box set, but it was in a 3-tape thing. It came with the film, like the letterbox version of the film, which was a thing back then. And then it came with extras or whatever that was on the 2nd tape. And then in the 3rd tape slot was a lighter, and I think there was like a couple of pin maybe or something like that. Some other like random tchotchke type of stuff. And I was just like, oh, I remember it being, I mean, hell, I could afford it back then. So it must have been moderately affordable.
I think it was like $50 at Media Play or something.
Yeah, it wouldn't. I mean, that seems high of what I would have spent on it, even though, as much as I liked Usual Suspects back then. But it's probably in that range. Certainly in that range, like with inflation or whatever now. So with Biden inflation causing the prices of VHS tapes to go up. Sorry.
And now, of course, if you look for it on eBay, I'm sure it's like 120.
Yeah, I don't even want to. Well, the problem is that it's probably more, but also the Kevin Spacey problem. Like, so you have both of the problems. Like,
And Bryan Singer. Don't.
yeah, it was the double hit. Yeah. No, I was watching Baby Driver a couple weeks ago, and I was just like, oh man, like this film is so fucking good. It's so good, but
Yeah.
because now they're talking about the potential for sequel, which
Yeah.
seems very confusing to me. But because it also kind of kills the like nice ending of it.
Yeah, the
I mean,
happy
hopefully
ending.
it'll be just a different film, like using the same characters. That's what I because they said John Hamm is going to be in it, which doesn't make a lot of sense unless it's something kind of separate. But
Yeah.
he was pretty conclusively killed at the end of that,
I
wasn't he?
think so. Yeah.
I thought he was.
It's been a while.
So maybe it's a prequel, like whatever. But
be one of those like it's like a midquel. It's like how Lion King 2 was just Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead.
Yeah. Anyway, but speaking of physical media, it's kind of what we do here. And the kind of big news in the last couple of weeks, within physical media of like, the death nail, kind of the death march or whatever of like, I think of widespread physical media, because I mean, I don't think there's ever going to be an argument that it's going to go away. Like go away. Like vinyl never went away. Did it sell? Is it selling? Is it kind of just complete, like all around? That's the way people listen to music, the way it was obviously 40 years ago. No, neither is Atrex, but
yeah.
But it looks like Redbox is probably going away if it isn't like basically completely already. I haven't checked my local Redboxes. Some people on Twitter were saying that it said no returns or no rentals, which means it's probably just selling out what's in the box, which is another reason why I probably want to go check it out just to see what actually is in there, because usually they're pretty cheap. But Redbox, this is from The Verge. Redbox missed $1 million payment it couldn't afford to miss. The DVD rental kiosk company was supposed to pay $16.7 million in 3 installments after missing the first payment. There's a court order to pay the whole balance, which I guess was against NBC Universal. But it's I don't know. You want to go into like what Redbox, like Chicken Soup for the Soul and that sort of thing? I mean,
Chicken Soup for the Soul bought Redbox, I want to say in 2022, although it could have been 2017. They had this weird expansion thing where once they broke out of just being self-help books and they like started a studio, they bought a bunch of stuff. They bought like Crackle, the Sony streaming service, and like for a while they were a real player, and they bought Redbox, and then they just like apparently haven't paid bills in 2 years. I don't know exactly when they stopped being viable, but it's like I wrote an article about it, and Chicken Soup for the Soul owes various creditors over $900 million. They are in Chapter 11. They have the structured payback, but like I can't imagine a scenario where people are going to be jumping at the chance to get their discs back into Redbox, because I feel like you run into this problem of like, not only is the company troubled, but also Redbox is like a subsidiary of a subsidiary, and like how far down the list of priorities are they going to be for paying people back and returning discs and all that?
Totally. But it's wild how like I remember explaining it to somebody that Redbox, they're like, I wouldn't know about it as that it exists or whatever, you've seen them even if you're not like a physical media person, but then telling them and like they're owned by Chicken Soup for the Soul. What? Which has the widest, I think, I'm trying to think of like outside of Saban maybe. I can't think of another production studio or whatever it is that has a wider weird range of things. Like it goes from like straight up indies, like whatever, like your standard kind of indie film, to Christian kind of like, cinema type of stuff, and then just kind of anything else. Like it was I'm trying to find the link here for the producer of It Follows. which is not something you think would be associated with it. Everything. Oh, my computer, probably the
Oh yeah.
500 tabs that I still have open. That's probably why everything's taking forever. Or maybe the internet just slowed
It
down
is in
today.
it's in the sheet that you sent me.
Yeah. But filmmakers take note. This is Rebecca Green, producer of It Follows, and a couple other films. Filmmakers take note. Chicken for the Soup for the Soul also owns the indie distributor 1091. This is the second time I've had a film distributor. It's not funny, but it's like bad luck. Second time I've had a film with a distributor who's gone bankrupt, which is kind of a big problem when indie film. It's not like you can usually buy the film out, you buy the whatever. It's like sometimes this is like where this is how films die, is that they basically take films with them, or 5 years later, maybe that after bankruptcy and that sort of thing, it'll be available for
I'm sure it'll eventually revert back to the filmmakers, because like the bankruptcy court will be like, no, it's not worth liquidating stuff when you already owe money to the filmmaker. I 5 days ago on Facebook, Taylor Morden posted a thing. Fun fact, the last blockbuster is probably the only movie to have been involved in not one but two of the biggest fiascos in indie film distribution of the last 3 years. And he shared a thing about Redbox, and then he shared a thing from the TFC blog about the Passion River, which was an indie distributor that collapsed in like 2019. And so, like, apparently the last blockbuster was set up at Passion River. Passion River died before it ever got released. And then he had to, like, get his rights back and then licensed it to Redbox and has never been paid.
Yeah.
So, luckily, I think Taylor's okay. He made some decent coin off of the irony clicks from that movie going to Netflix. But
yeah, it's just always sad that anytime, because I mean it means that these films don't get proper advertising behind them and like distribution and kind of the ways. Not that there is, for independent cinema really, unless you're an A24 kind of esque film, I feel like there's really I just don't see films that aren't basically independent films that are basically like an A24 knockoff kind of production of like it's a horror film, but no, it's a little bit weirder, or something, or whatever it is, which I love. Half of my favorite films right now are like I released in the last couple of years are A24 films, so I'm not talking shit about it, but it does, it's kind of like what Pulp Fiction did to indie cinema back in the 90s, where it was just like every single film was 34 different characters across a city. Somebody gets killed, like it was a formula. But it is sad to see yet another like Redbox and, in that kind of world where it's just like, I actually really, because we're finally finishing up, it's now called Vigilantes Inc., which is the documentary I've been working on for the last couple of years, and we're finally finishing up showing it at Netroots Nation next week. If you're there for some reason, if you're listening, but in Baltimore. But I had a very weird goal of getting it into Redbox. Because I wanted to go, it's like there's no chance I'm going to the movie theaters and going to the Regal, and it's not going to get that big distribution. It's not Michael Moore, it's not anything. And also it's a film that like a lot of America will once whatever the election is, people will probably stop caring about it, even though it's a film that, like most documentaries, should have longer legs, but people have the attention span of whatever it immediately cares about. But it's a very big disappointment, because I'm like, that would have been one of the last places I could see. Like I still remember going to see Big Easy to Big Empty, the disc, in the Virgin Megastore in New York City, because it was part of the distribution. And I was like, oh, my name's on that. And now we're going to try like Tubi or something. So yeah. So you don't want to talk about on the other end of things, the kind of erasure of our digital record, with 25 plus years of Daily Show clips gone as Paramount axes Comedy Central website.
And this one is actually, it's interesting because the Daily Show archives haven't gotten exactly as much love as the day before the Daily Show got cleared out. Paramount also nuked 25 years of MTV News.
Yeah.
And luckily, the Internet Archive still has all this stuff up, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Although obviously with Daily Show, I mean probably MTV as well, but definitely Daily Show. There's a lot of video, and Internet Archive is kind of notoriously not great about being able to archive video for a variety of reasons. Like sites like Comedy Central make it incredibly hard to directly download stuff. Yeah. Also, there's just bandwidth and space constraints. Also. So, like, I'm sure there's still a lot of stuff that's lost. Luckily, the Internet Archive was on top of it. Especially, they're on top of the Daily Show stuff because, like I said, the day before, everybody saw the MTV thing happen, and it was like, oh shit. And so we people kind of collectively freaked out and started backing stuff up. I paid $100 so that I could back up my own personal articles from Comic Book because I don't anticipate anything. My again, I've said this before on the show, but my company is owned by Paramount. They bought us about 5 years ago. I don't anticipate anything happening at comicbook.com imminently, but also like there's plenty of other sites in our space.
Yeah.
Newsarama, comic book resources, where they still exist. They're still like making money and they're still creating new content every day. But if you want to find something that's 3 years old, good luck, because they just nuke it after 18 months.
Well, I mean, this is something that I think both of us been screaming about for decades at this point. But this idea that like the internet is forever is complete horseshit.
Yeah.
I just went through because I was trying to pull some portfolio stuff and just like actually be like, oh, I never got like a good screenshot of this thing. The Village Voice. Not like a small entity and kind of like a historical record of importance. They got rid of all of my images. I worked for them for several years covering different things in New York City. I covered the Unite the Right rally for them. They submitted my work for the Pulitzer and all of the images are gone. The articles are still there, but they just pulled all the images. And they never gave me a notice. They never said anything because obviously Village Voice has been through like 3 different companies since the last time I worked for them. But that was a wild, heartbreaking thing to find because I mean, there's a lot of like, I've done journalism work for Suicide Girls. All of that's gone. Thankfully, my editor, who now works with Craig, that was over there, is thankfully she backed everything up I did over, and that was always photo heavy, obviously. Because I was covering Occupy Wall Street and different things, but it's incredibly depressing to watch. Like I can kind of get some of the news stuff. It's like money thing, but it's like, how do you not like figure out a way to monetize this shit? Like, even if it is up on YouTube or if it's whatever, like Monty Python did that. I'm trying to remember who, I mean, Trauma's done a good job of like realizing that this shit's like just online. We might as well have the spot with the highest quality. Cause I mean, it's not like people wouldn't go back.
Trauma are really good because Trauma have figured out the thing that I think a lot of companies are going to figure out, and then it might create a new problem, which is I don't have to pay to host my own stuff. If I put it on YouTube, and like we can put it up on YouTube at 4K. And just like it's, if you don't make a lot of money by monetizing your actual individual videos. Then putting it on YouTube is great because you can like save it in high quality and it doesn't cost you anything to host and you still get, your pittance at the end of the month for whatever.
And you can use it to sell, if people want physical media, they want t-shirts, they want plushie, whatever, that type of thing.
Well, I mean, ultimately too, I think the Trauma audience is definitely a physical media audience. I'm sure some of their stuff sells okay on digital, but I think it's a really great, for a while they had like a subscription-based plan where, and I don't remember how it worked, but they had a subscription-based plan where there's a bunch of stuff on eBay or on YouTube. I keep saying eBay. There's a bunch of stuff on YouTube that you could access after a paywall. I don't know how that works. I don't know if it was like a private account and they sent you the links or if it was what, but that was to me that seemed like a really good idea that I just didn't do because I was too broke at the time.
Yeah.
I don't think that exists anymore, but I do think they've continued to back everything up on YouTube so that way, like, if anything ever happened for some reason, they're like, okay, well, at least it exists.
Yeah. It is though that, I mean, it is something that I think that people really can't grasp, that these sites won't be around forever. I mean, it's something we've hammered continually, but I mean, like, there is going to be a day when YouTube goes away. There's just going to be a day, or at least the version of what we have. I mean, MySpace existed for many years afterwards, but none of our, GIFs and music tracks or whatever else we put up there, with family photos or whatever, if you used it for that type of thing, that is all gone. And but it was up there for a long time. And that was like, I mean, to be of a certain age to remember that MySpace was what Facebook is for at least a couple years. And Facebook was just like, college or whatever. But even Facebook, I mean, even God forbid finding anything on Facebook. I know the amount of things that I've uploaded on Facebook from journalism and from years of covering things, and I can't find a goddamn thing. Just like on Twitter, it's the same. Yeah. It's the same deal. It's just like it's gone. But
that's a huge thing for me, because like I keep looking at like maybe I should just close down, like maybe I'm done with Facebook because I don't really use it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I think about that, I'm like, I know there's stuff on there I should save, but like I don't know where the hell it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and I mean like a lot of things can be backed up, but if you can't find them, then what's the point? I mean, it is obviously like we both have this conversation about buying DVD burners so that we can, or Blu-ray burners, so we can start backing movies up, backing whatever up, things just like archives, because I'm just like, I have right now, if you could see my desk, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think there's one underneath that pile, 12 hard drives just sitting on my desk.
Yeah.
And like each one of these is at least 4 terabytes of information. And so it's just like years of work. And it's just like, that hard drives don't last. I mean, discs, everything doesn't last.
Yeah, nothing.
But
nothing lasts,
I can't,
but also,
I don't know what I can do with video. Like I can print photos. That's great. But like, I can't print a film, unfortunately. I don't have the budget to do all my back catalog on 35 print to digital, but or digital to print, but I would love to if anyone wants to finance that. But it's I don't know, it's extremely depressing, especially as we talk about Sony is the last is kind of everyone's kind of sending their stuff now to print DVDs, and Disney's getting out of the business of making DVDs, which is fucking wild that they're getting out of the business of, like, Disney was the place for physical media. Like, it was a lot of times it was like, if you were a kid, it was the only place that was, you could reliably be like, okay, well, I could see a Disney VHS. Do I have one on my back? Of course I don't. Like, the only thing close I have is Mandy. Very different, not a Disney release.
All mine are in the room over there. So
yeah, but it's wild to think that they're going to stop doing it. And then like right as this news breaks that Sony is doing, basically going to be taking over the business. Now Sony is not going to be making consumer burnables anymore. Yeah. So like the physical DVDs that you can buy a burner for and do it. I don't know if they're the largest. I don't know how the like kind of breakdown. I would assume that Sony is probably one of the larger.
I assume they're the largest. The other thing about Sony is that like Sony tend to be a trendsetter in the physical space because they make players.
Yeah.
And they make players, they make PlayStations, they make all these things that actually interact with the discs. And so I think in a lot of cases, it's kind of like Sony is just accepted as like a microcosm of the industry at large. And so it's like, even if they aren't the biggest, they're one of the biggest. And also there's weight to the fact that it's Sony.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
the news broke initially that they were just going to phase out discs, and people freaked out for like half an hour.
Yeah.
Especially because they just bought the rights to do the Disney stuff. And it's like, oh, are we going to just say that and then immediately eradicate the market? Yeah. And it was like, No, of course not. The only like you would not pay to do that. That would be insane. But like yeah, they that it by the time I even saw it, that like little mini freak out people had on the internet had already passed. Jeff Rousio, who is like a physical media influencer on YouTube and Instagram, had been like, "No, I'm making a video now. Everybody calm down. My people explain this to me."
Yeah. No.
Uh,
No, that confused the
one,
hell out of me when I saw that. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if it was a tweet or if it was a headline or whatever that like, oh, they're getting out of discs. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah. I think it was just people saw something and they wanted to go with a dramatic headline and didn't realize like, oh no, that like if that were true, it would fuck up the whole industry.
Yeah.
Or maybe did realize and didn't care because
yeah. Well, whoever came out with it gets the clicks, and that's all that fucking matters.
Yeah.
You know, so
exactly.
We're doing a short episode tonight because both of us are very exhausted, and at least we wake up early in the morning tomorrow. But we have one more story, and I do want to talk briefly about something a Twitter fight that I got into. But the Variety from also the 21st last month. 5 men convicted of operating massive illegal streaming service that allegedly had more content than Netflix, Hulu, Vudu, and Prime Video combined. They had 180 host of 183,000 TV episodes. I'm trying to see what the numbers were on the films, but it is wild. Like, while I was prepping for this episode, I looked up like how many films does Netflix has? It's like 5,000.
Which is, like, by the way, less than the number of movies at the Blockbuster hop up at the Florida State Fair. Like,
yeah, like it's always like, it's just like, oh, maybe that's actually why you can't find anything to watch. It's like my aunt had that many DVDs back in the day. Like, and it's just like, I mean, obviously, like Amazon has I think it was like 15,000 or 15 to 20,000, which, you know, if you've been on Amazon, I can upload a film of anything and get it on Amazon. So it's not like Netflix, which at least has like some level. It's not great. I mean, they put up a lot of films with The Rock in it and Kevin Hart that somehow, but anyway, but still, that's like, it's not a crazy amount considering how many films are made every single year. And they just, I guess all these films just evaporate into air.
Yeah. I will say, just so it's said, like, these guys got arrested for this, but like this isn't like doing your own Plex server and sharing it with 5 of your friends. Like 180,000. And not only, like, it's not just a quality, or it's not just a quantity thing either. Like, everything they had was just downloaded off of the Pirate Bay. So it's not like it is just one of the, like, I strongly encourage people, if you have the time and the energy and the resources, to make a Plex server and share your movies with your own like personal group of friends and family. But like copying your own DVD and then having it be like having it shared between 4 people is not the same as
I feel weird when we get like a industry thing and like we have to share it between us and it's like on our Dropbox for like a brief moment or something like that, and I'm like, I feel like it's uncomfortable. These guys it's not probably gonna be great. They're probably gonna be maximum penalty. I don't think they should be going to fucking jail, but like, Delman faces a maximum penalty.
It says they've been doing it since 2007. I can't imagine you don't go to jail at that point because
2000. I mean, I don't know. It's just, as much as like I'm a big copyright person, everything like that is like, I don't want somebody to go to fucking jail.
I mean, I don't want somebody to go to. I just don't imagine. I can't imagine, like, because I know.
Like, it's not like they stole a photo of mine.
Stack up.
They're uploading, Mission Impossible or something. You're gonna get.
Oh, your fines stack up to 325 million. Would you rather go to jail for 4 years or try to come up with that money?
I just, Yeah, I just it's always wild when these things exist for so long, and
Yeah.
just got to keep it on the down low. It's only $10, $9.99 a month for all that content. I kind of wish I had just been able to see it, like just to,
I know
like just to see
that's
what it
how it
was
is with
like.
me for all these things. It's like I don't want to like go on and
Mhm.
engage in an illegal thing for an extended period of time, but I do want to like give them $10 just to go in and like take some screenshots and
Like,
look around,
this exists.
be like, what does this look like?
Yeah.
How do you manage this?
Yeah, because it's like there. I mean, again, like speaking of physical media, like there was. I mean, this obviously still exists and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, like one thing, living in New York City in like 2006, 2007, like you could just get fucking anything.
Oh
You
yeah.
just go to like you knew places to go, and you'd be like, hey, can I get like the fucking blockbuster that's in the whatever blockbuster movie
Yeah.
that's like in playing in Times Square right now? Can I get like a pretty good either maybe a cam job, but like likely a scan somehow like digital download or something like that?
I
And
mean,
like you
when
$10.
when when I moved out of your apartment and I was living in Chinatown,
Yeah.
I was there. God, I must have moved in like 2 weeks before The Dark Knight came in theaters,
Yeah.
and then we like the girl I was dating. We moved in together within 3 months. I did not stay in that place in Chinatown for long.
Yeah.
But like during that time, I saw both Iron Man and The Dark Knight by way of like DVDs that somebody brought in with them when they came home from work.
Yeah.
It was just like, hey, the lady with the suitcase had these. You want to watch it?
Yeah, it's just always funny because people would like yell at you as you walk in the street. You want a Dark Knight, something, whatever it would be, and be like, maybe be like, it'd be a weird night. Be like, you go out to the bar drinking, get spend $40 at the bar, and then go home. And like on your way home, pick up a couple of DVDs on the street.
Yeah,
and like usually they'd be like actual because it'd be such an easy scam. Because like usually it's just like they had like a beach towel out on the side of the street because they'd have to grab it up and go. If the cops walk by or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, sometimes I've seen before like cops literally buying, like going through the collection and buying their own stuff. But
like I said, in Chinatown, we had a lady who had a suitcase, and if the cops came by, she just zipped up the suitcase and like pretended to be homeless.
Yeah. I miss good-hearted criminality. That's a time period in New York. Now they have a cop mayor, and anyway. But the final thing that I briefly wanted to talk about, and I'm trying to find the original thread here, but once again, this is something that does pop up a lot, is the kind of conversation of like, and I think this is a larger conversation we probably have had, but we should probably have it again. It's always worth having, is that like how much it costs to go to the fucking movies. And that's obviously always been like some level of complaint depending on where you live and what time period and some things like that.
Yeah.
But somebody posted a kind of a thread, him, and it was 2 adults and 5 kids. Didn't specify it was his 5 kids, it's just 5 kids. Like, so it could have been like, you bring in a bunch of your kids' friends or whatever, thing. Right. And like, just buying those 2 tickets to go, or those 7 tickets racked up to be like $170. And obviously they picked like the RPX screening or something like that. And it was like of Despicable Me 4, which is not necessarily a film that you need to see at, RPX, like the huge thing. That said, I'm opening up a bottle right now. Sorry. That said, you want to see a fucking film the way you want to see a fucking film, like, and the screening hours that are available, and like people, like there was this one Twitter, like movie Twitter person who's a film reviewer. I don't know who he works for, if he does work for, he's just a freelancer, but he was just like, people complain about this and like kind of just like passing away this idea that it's a problem. And like I posted, but like, why aren't people going to the movies? And why aren't people like this past year where you've had boom, 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 boom movies that like Mad Max at the same time as 3 other films that are out and everything like that. And it's just like, just for me alone to go to my local theater, if I go on I work from home and I pick my own hours because whatever. So I can go a Tuesday at 5, at 2 p.m. if I want to, or pick the noon showing. I can do whatever kind of, and I usually do, but it's like, it's $11 after whatever to go see the movie, just see the movie after, for some fucking reason, there's a $2 ticketing price even on Regal. and then it's like $2 for me to park at the theater that I go to. And then I'm sorry, I want popcorn, especially if I'm going to see like an action, something, actiony or whatever. I want popcorn and I want a soda icy or whatever. And that's you're talking about $30-40 easily right there, just for one person, just for me. And it's just like, well, that's at tops a once a week thing I can possibly afford. Most of the time it's a once a month thing that I can afford, because it's I don't, if I was writing, if I was seeing films, if I had more than just this podcast or whatever, I could justify it more. But it's just like, I think it's something that like the film reviewer kind of world just doesn't grasp, because they get invited to so many screenings, they get invited to so many things. It's part of their job. And it's like, no, that's $175 to go see a movie with your kids or whatever is batshit insane. I don't care, like 5 kids or whatever. It's still fucking insane that it costs. It's a day's work for most Americans.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
no, I totally agree. And it's funny because like I know like there's an ongoing conversation with people where it's like, well, how else are you going to pay for these $300 million movies? And I get that, but also I think at this point, we've proven that almost none of these $300 million movies make their money back. So maybe focus on making cheaper movies that people will actually go see.
I'm sorry, like it's like no one can ever get into I will never have a fucking argument until the writer of Men in Black actually makes any fucking money from the film. I will never have a conversation about, oh, these films cost this much money. I will never, I'll be like, no, it's made up math. It's made up. It's magical. It doesn't believe it. I don't care. You can say a film's $300 million and a film makes $700 million. Somehow it doesn't make money. I'm sorry. And also, like, the money that you spend keeps the studio running so the other films can be made. The idea that for somehow, like, this budget just works, that these people just come in, never do anything else, don't look at another film, don't do anything else while they're being paid, while this $300 million or whatever. Contracts are made that you go, okay, well, you're going to do 5 films, you're going to do you're gonna, whatever. Like, there's all these things. This idea that like people arguing with people that should have a better idea of like how Hollywood works and how money works, and they honestly do know, but they're not being honest because it works better for them to argue. It's like, well, just people aren't seeing movies, and that's why. And it's just like, well, also, guess what? Like, you're showing, like, I would have loved to see, like, so this is a big pet peeve of mine too, which I'm just ranting because I just watched the fourth Beverly Hills Cop, which I enjoyed quite a bit. I highly recommend it if you're a fan of that universe. Was
now streaming on Netflix.
What's that? Now streaming on Netflix. But also in theaters in California, of course, because but I'm just like, I would have loved to see, I would have 100% seen that movie. That would have been one that I would have gone to see. And it's just like, well, no, we can't see it. My options right now are like 3 films. If one of the Despicable films are out right now, likely I don't have any other options to see things, because they know that film is going to make $100 million this weekend or whatever, which probably that's a super fun family thing or whatever. But we don't have any other options. Like here in Norfolk, I mean, Syracuse as well, there's one fucking theater left at all. Like we have a bunch of theaters, but they all play the exact same films at the exact same times. And so it's like a wild thing where it's just like, we get, filmed 3 weeks after they've already been out in the rest of the country. And so it's just like, I don't know. That's my rant. You can go on Twitter and see my very extensive argument with a bunch of people arguing that movies should be basically more money, like that to go see a movie. No, it's a very reasonable amount of money. It's like $14. And I'm like, that's not like, I don't know.
I mean, here's the thing. $14 is a reasonable amount of money, but like knowing that, like you have somebody captive for 3 hours, they're gonna buy food because like they kind of have to. Not that anybody has to, but it's like that you're not really selling a $14 experience. You're really selling a $50 experience, and that's where the conversation
but you can sneak
comes.
in
how many
things,
average
you can do whatever. First off, I don't like sneaking, like I don't like doing that in general, but also like I'm going to the movies, I want popcorn. And I want I have snuck popcorn into a movie before. It was not the experience that you want. Also, like I'm sorry, like bag checks exist. I mean, how many times have we tried to walk into Regal with coffee like just a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
and they're like, no, they like block us at the door. Supposedly no one else has ever had that experience, which is complete fucking horseshit. I've had it multiple times where it's just like, it's just a fucking coffee. You don't even serve coffee.
Yeah, seriously.
I don't know. It's just the biggest experience was like the biggest like weird argument is just like you're arguing for the corporations, for the studios who have proven that I mean, like the moment that studio heads stop making $100 million, $50 million a year, then we can start having an argument. And I'm like, and I'm sorry that they're fucking over that these like massive movie chains that are also fucking over employees. Like they have two people working there for like $10 an hour. I'm sorry, like maybe their rent's high, but like they're doing okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Any final thoughts? There are 2 more stories on our thing. Neither of them are super pressing, but we can either touch on them today or touch on them next time.
No, I figure we can jump on those later. They're not the one is just kind of about the enjoyment of collecting movies and unless you want to talk about the other one.
No, that's cool. We can save it for next time. I want to do another one quickly. I want to get back in the habit of doing these every couple of weeks.
What have you very quickly, have you seen anything? I know you don't get to see anything other than like for your job. I know. But
I saw Inside Out 2, which I thought was fine. It was like a 3.5 star movie. It's and let me first say, I didn't adore the first one the way that most people do. It's not one of my top 5 Pixar
I don't
movies.
remember people adoring it when it came out, which is it's been very confusing, and maybe that's just like people watching it since then that are actually the people that adore it. But anyway,
but the thing with the second one that really struck me was they really were relying on the assumption that I gave a shit about Riley, and like the characters that we followed in the first movie were the emotions inside of Riley's head. And like, yes, you want good things for her because she's a kid, and also because her happiness means something to the characters that you're following and you care about. But they spent a lot more time, it felt like, in the second movie outside of Riley's head, like watching her like be a jerk to her friends at hockey camp. And it's just like, okay, I don't know what I'm supposed to be feeling right now, because like that's not entirely fair. Obviously the whole thing was like the conflict of her like with her new friends and her old friends, and like she's being shitty to her old friends and blah 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 blah. But like, I don't know, I just felt like I don't really care that much about Riley. I would rather spend this time with the emotions, who were the main characters of the first movie. And
a whole comedy kind of like troupe. I mean, like literally, that's like, that's interesting. I don't know when I'll see it. I'm sure eventually I'll see it, but
I mean, again, it was fine. I'm kind of overstating the problems with it because the whole time I was watching, I was like, this is weird. But fundamentally, the problem with Riley is that she was not a character in the first movie. Like her emotions exist to make her happy. So she's perfect because as far as they're concerned, the most important thing in the world is to bring her contentment. And so like in the second movie, making her kind of shitty, it feels like it could have been interesting, but in order to do something interesting with it, they would have had to spend even more time in the real world and even more time away from the emotions. And like, so it's just, I don't know, it felt like a weird mismatch.
It's interesting. I just finished Godzilla Kong.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why. It is one film that, because I've been the last like year, I've gotten really into the Godzilla, the kind of that universe of films.
Monsterverse.
What's that? The monster.
Monsterverse.
I don't know why this film, like, there's so many, I don't know whys. And it was just a CG knock'em sock'em kind of thing, literally, with like the Kong giving him the like little metal hand and things like that. But it was just, and I get that it's not Godzilla -1, which is a fantastic film that deserves to get more, which is like, it made me, made emotions, and it was like badass with Godzilla and everything like that. I don't know what they're doing. Like, especially considering the TV show is really good. I think it's really good. They're building a world in a way that like I don't see a lot of kind of TV shows based off of cinema universes do, where like I don't give a damn about, where it's almost there's very few monsters, or kaiju, whatever. And I just don't understand what they needed to do with this film. There's no, like, the humans are just, everything felt like they kind of like, oh, look at over there, and then cut to insert scene with CG. There's there's very little interaction, which was something that like the previous Godzilla and Kong films had. Obviously, like
for sure.
the first Kong film was like fucking terrifying because these characters were literally grabbing and doing over, and you just didn't have that. And it was just like against these weirdly designed, like weird character designs that didn't seem to have any, because there's so many of them. There's like probably like 30 new kind of memorable characters that you saw in this, and like type of things, and none of them have any backstory, and none of them have any purpose and why they're like this and things like that, which is like, it's like something that like the Planet of the Apes films, the new ones, like it's this type of ape because he's this and things like that. And like obviously it's always weird to kind of intellectualize computer graphic monkeys, but and even Godzilla, like, never mind, like this kind of world has like a real big problem with spatial differences. Like Godzilla is sometimes bigger than Kong, and sometimes he's smaller than Kong, and whatever. And it's just like all these kind of different things that like bother the fuck out of me, because it's really easy to just establish that. And it's something that fucking the like 30 million whatever Godzilla -1 did, and stuck with it. Like it was always this right size and whatever. It was very simple to do. I don't know. It was just so like, I would have been livid if I paid money for it. Especially if I paid $30-40 for it. Even in a big theater, even whatever, because like the CG was great, but it was like really everything in the scene was CG, and so it was not interacting with anything. And like even the like scenes in cities, you could tell that every single, like, I don't know, like CG works really well when it interacts with practical. Like that's kind of like the best thing when you're doing this. Otherwise you get, it's just why am I not just watching an animation, like an animated film? Like I feel like that was what this movie should have been. And the writing was non-existent. The character, like, no driven. I mean, like that was another thing, which is like at least the first couple, like you felt like the kaiju had like some sort of drive and some sort of purpose to them. And this was like, oh, we don't know why Godzilla is suddenly having to, like, he just goes and destroys a nuclear plant to get like hyper souped up or whatever. And it's just like, we don't know anything. And it's, I don't know. It was just a huge fucking disappointment. He stepped on
a bee and now it's,
I don't know. And it's just like, oh, this whole underworld. I mean, they're so fucking like, I don't know. It's just like, it felt like, what like a lot of it felt like is that some of the big battles, like it was like Batman versus Superman, when they're like, oh, we're going to fight him in this area that's already destroyed and has like, doesn't have that much stuff going on. So like, he's not like flying through buildings, but at least they justified it with like, oh, we don't want to go and we need to fight him here. So we don't fight him in the city where tens of thousands of people are going to die. Good reasoning. Here, it was just, it felt like, it's a cave, and that's a good place to fight everybody. And it's like, it's cheap and everything looks terrible. I don't know. It was just a very weird, huge disappointment on the film. And like, maybe on a bigger screen, it would have been like, oh, it's on a big screen, but like, I at least want like stupid dumb. I mean, like, like I just want a prequel to, with Idris Elba of Pacific Rim. That's all I want now. Like, because that was what they were doing. It was like, oh, let's give them some toys and let's do whatever. Like, add some things onto it. And I'm like, oh, fuck this. Like, anyway.
I will say, for the next time we chat, I'm going to try to get into at least a couple of the pile of movies that I've gotten in the last few weeks.
Nice.
I got 4Ks for Monkey Man, The Karate Kid, Ungentlemanly Warfare, which I have already seen. I thought that was fine. It was a fun, dumb movie. It's exactly what you expect from.
It could have been. What's his name now? It was like right on that line to be. I saw it in theaters, and I was super. It was. I'm still happy I saw it in theaters just because it was a good. Like this is the type of film I want. No real. Maybe it had. So I don't want to know if it had some existing IP or something like that. But like, it
no,
didn't feel
but
like
it is based on a true story.
Yeah, yeah.
Like Henry Cavill's character in that movie is the guy who inspired James Bond.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's just like it was fun. Monkey Man was really good. I feel like it's one of those films that I listened to too much of the hype for it, and so I was like expecting like and it was it was almost but it wasn't quite
luckily
there.
By the time they sent me the disc, because I didn't get a chance to see it in theaters, by the time they sent me the disc, I had already heard like the backlash to the hype, and so now I'm kind of like, well, I assume it'll be okay.
If that's your first directing job and you're acting, like, fuck, you can do whatever. I mean, like, he's always great. Everything he does is great.
Yeah, he really,
and like it sucks because
I'm looking forward to sitting down with it
because of the way that Hollywood
Callie
works.
wanted to watch, so I have to find time.
It is pretty fucking brutal. I know that, like, that's not her vibe.
Yeah.
So it is a pretty brutal fight. The fighting is really fucking good. And it's pretty fucking believable too, which is always good. For that type of thing. So
yeah. That's what they say about Karate Kid too. It's brutal. It's
well, you get into the whatever that was with the crane, crane move.
I want to dig into some of my physical media over the next few weeks. I have like a stack of stuff, and some of it now is old enough that I'm like, nobody's waiting for me to review this anymore. It's really just me feeling like that I should do the right thing and actually talk about stuff. So
I feel like an idiot. I just went through a whole bunch of my films. Like I went on last year I went on a binge on Arrow. And I was just like, I tried to show Tremors a couple of months ago to a friend of mine. And I'm like, why is this not working? Oh, it's a region code. It's a region free disc and it won't play in my DVD player. And I looked at a couple other films and like I thought that I got a 4K Blu-ray set or something like that. No, it wasn't that. So I've got like $100 of discs that I bought last year that I can't watch at all until I invest. Because I looked up because I was like, obviously I'm looking at like, I should get a 4K player, and now I'm just like, fuck, maybe I should get a Blu-ray. And is there something that does both? But I'm like, everything, it looks like it's $175 fucking dollars. So.
Yeah, and that's my a friend of mine, because I had a conversation similar to this. A friend of mine sent me a link to their the DVD player they use, and it's a region-free Sony 4K Blu-ray.
Yeah,
and it's like, that's fucking amazing. That's everything I'll ever need. It's also $280, so it's like I'll get around to it eventually.
It's one of those, I'm like, do I want this or do I want to, like, I have a 40-inch Roku TV that they've been doing. I was just one of our another story we're going to talk about later or whatever, or that I'll just mention it, is that they're forcing like smooth scanning and everything onto their things. And so like I have been thinking of like, should I like finally break down, like you can get a 55-inch like 4K TV for like fucking nothing. Like it's like so stupid. I spend what I spend money on. I'm like I could get that with no problem if I just like save up a month for a month. But it's just like I don't need a bigger TV. My room's only like my living room is only so large, but also like that feel like the TV is more important at this point than like being able to play these 5 discs that I have on on other platforms. I also have the original DVDs and like probably a Blu-ray version somewhere. But
all right, any final thoughts?
That's all, folks.
All right, we're gonna go to bed, guys. So, but thank you everybody for listening. I'll be back here by noon on the 5th day for more Emerald City video, and always remember to rewind your Terrifier 2 cassettes. So.